Hello, Tech Summit organizers. My name is David Wilcox. I want to show you a little bit about how serverless works and what you can do with it. So this is going to be a little bit of a demo about me showing you serverless. So the first thing I want to talk about is what serverless takes to install. So to install serverless, what you do is you go to Google, you type in install npm, and you should be able to find the first link and follow the instructions on the first link for installing npm. npm is Node Package Manager. It's what you use to install all JavaScript functions on your own box. So once you have npm, then you can do npm install serverless-g, and this will install the serverless framework for you, and that's pretty fast too. And once you have that, then you're up and running, and you can start creating your own serverless project. So I'm going to do serverless project create Tech Summit demo, and it's just trying to create a bunch of different default configurations for the project. So we're trying to figure out what region we want to deploy to, what stage name and API gateway we want to use, what credentials on the local box we can use for AWS, and let's just get going on this. So this will take a couple minutes to deploy, but it should be pretty quick. While it's going, I'm going to talk a little bit more about serverless and what it is. So serverless is a way to manage deploying to AWS Lambda functions. And what AWS Lambda is you provided a function and you provide it when or how to run your function, and then all it does is runs your function for you. So instead of having something like EC2 where you have a whole virtual machine that you deploy to, instead you give them a function, and then on the when it's supposed to be run, they set up a Docker container and then they run the function for you in real time. The reason why this is really cool is because they manage all the hardware. So now they can manage the hardware much more efficiently than if I have dedicated EC2 hardware. And I don't need to set up anything like elastic load balancing in order to balance the load on this. They do it for me in AWS Lambda. They just make sure that they spawn enough Lambda functions to get everything done, and I don't have to do any load balancing or any configuration on that. So that's really cool because now you can have infinitely scalable applications with minimal effort if you just lay out your function, if you just lay out your application correctly. So looks like our project's been created. So let's just go ahead and to our project. All right. So look, it doesn't look like we have any functions here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and create a function. Serverless function create, and let's create a REST API hello endpoint. So there are two languages that you can deploy to in using serverless, Node.js, JavaScript, and Python. Lambda technically supports Java as well, but serverless is still working on supporting that. But for now, I'm just going to use Node.js. You can either deploy an endpoint or an event. An endpoint will set up an API gateway URL that you can invoke your function with. An event will be something like an SQSQ message that will invoke your function, SNS, and I think you can even have it scan an S3 bucket and notify you when it changes so that you can do something in response to that. But for now, we're just going to do an endpoint. And now we have an endpoint locally. So let's go ahead and try to run this endpoint locally. Serverless function run hello. And we get something back. Your Lambda function has executed successfully. That's wonderful. Let's see what exactly is going on with this. Let's go ahead and open up our Lambda. So this is our function right here. This is the input coming in. This is our message that we're returning back to the client. And this is the message that we just saw. So it's not doing anything fancy right now. It's just printing us out a message. But let's try to deploy this out to the World Wide Web now so that anybody can view this message. So you can do serverless dash deploy. And this brings up two things that you can deploy to. You can either deploy the function or you can deploy the endpoint, or you can do both. The function is the raw guts of the logic of what you're actually doing. The endpoint is the HTTP URL that you're deploying to. So you can deploy the function without the endpoint. In our case, it doesn't make sense to do that, so we're just going to deploy to both. Okay, so we got the function deployed. It's working on the endpoint. Looks like that was successful, and here is our URL. Let's go ahead and try to run this URL and see what happens. Alrighty, looks like it worked. So this is the general type of thing that we can do in serverless. What I want to do in my Tech Summit lab is I want to go through a lot more stuff than this. For example, I want to maybe put a name right here. So it will, you can say hello David, and then this will, when you run it, it'll put your name at the end. So you can pass parameters in. I haven't shown you how to do that. I haven't shown you how serverless will manage your DynamoDB or other AWS resources. It can manage all those resources and manage it with IAM roles as well. I haven't shown you how cross-origin requests work yet. That's another gotcha, and I really want to show you that. And then the last really important thing that I really want to show in the lab, well, one of the last really important things is with Lambda, what the normal workflow that Amazon has you do is you just deploy your Lambda function out to them, and there's no real way to set up a service locally and run the service locally. But I want to show you how to do that with serverless. That it makes it hard to do with Lambda, but how serverless makes that so easy. I firmly believe that AWS Lambda is going to be a next revolution in in application development, because now application developers do not have to manage their hardware at all. I don't have to manage EC2 hardware, period, when I develop my application. This is going to help application developers do develop their application so that we don't need tech ops anymore, and so that we just deploy to Lambda for a fraction of the cost of what EC2 would have charged. Thanks so much. I hope you accept my lab. I'm really excited about it. I hope to get a lot of good feedback from you. Thanks.